All right, the hour of 4:30 having arrived, I'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Monday, March 16th, 2026, and ask Director Schmidtke to please call the roll.
Council President Vitiver.
Here.
Alder Revere.
Here.
Alder Govindarajan.
Here.
Alder Madison.
Here.
Alder Evers.
Here.
Alder Figueroa Cole.
Here.
Mayor, you have quorum.
Thank you. We have no general public comment. So are there any disclosures or recusals from members of the body on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on then to the consent agenda. I'll note that item 12 is a discussion item, so that will be separated. Are there other items that members of the body would like to have separated from the consent agenda? Alder Madison.
Just 10.
Item 10. Thank you, Alder. Alder Evers.
Item 4.
Item 4. Thank you, Alder. Alder Figueroa Cole.
3.
Item 3. Thank you, Alder. President Vitiver.
Item 11.
Item 11. Thank you, Alder. Are there any other items that members of the body would like to have excluded from the consent agenda at this time? Seeing none, then we will be excluding items 3, 4, 10, 11, and 12. On the balance of items on today's agenda, which constitute the consent agenda, President Vitiver, a motion, please.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we will record that vote. And then that will take us to item 3, which is Legistar 91991, authorizing the Director of Public Health to sign a sole source contract for purchase of services with Dane County Humane Society for 2026. On item 3, a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 3. Questions for staff on item 3?
Yes, can staff do a quick summary of this item, please?
Thank you, Alder. Director Heinrich is here.
Sure. So we have had a contract with the Dane County Humane Society for as long as I've been with Public Health Madison and Dane County to support the Animal Services Program and be able to meet the requirements as outlined both in state statute and local ordinances to shelter animals if they are in our care or identified as stray for the care of by the public on behalf of the statutes or ordinances. So
can you speak on regards to the funding sources for this particular item?
So this particular contract will be for the remainder of 2026. We have about 500 and some in our base budget, and we'll need to be pulling from our fund balance to support it for the remainder of this year.
And when you say from our fund balance, you mean public health for
Thank you, Alder. Yes, correct. From the Public Health Madison and Dane County fund balance.
Just to make it very clear, what we are approving today is the one-time funding source for the 2026 budget, like a 2026 budget amendment from a one-time source. Correct?
This is correct for 2026, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Are there other questions for staff on item 3? Seeing none, item 3 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing Alder Figueroa Cole?
I mean, again, this is something that has come up a few times during my time as an alder, and I will support it. I will support the resolution at this moment because we're talking about fulfilling a need for this year. But I just want to make it clear that these discussions will continue on as part of the 2027 budget process. Correct? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor of item 3? Seeing no objection, we'll record that vote and move on to item 4. Item 4 is Legistar 92019, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a parking lot and driveway use agreement with the Steve Stricker American Family Insurance Foundation for the use of the parking lots in Cherokee Marsh Conservation Park North unit during the American Family Insurance Championship in 2026 and 2027. This is in District 18. On item 4, a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Are there questions for staff on item 4? Alder Evers?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I don't know who's here from Parks who would be able to answer questions.
Superintendent Ryan is here.
Thank you. We received a public comment in written form from a Nick Davies expressing concerns, similar concerns I think he raised last year. Have you seen, I think this was submitted at Board of Parks. Are you familiar with these concerns / complaints?
Yes, I am. I've read through them and am happy to discuss any of them.
Yeah, I think he brings up some interesting points about the loss of parking for handicapped folks during this time period. He makes a suggestion that there be some handicap parking spaces that are reserved for residents during this time period. Any thought as to whether that could be managed?
Yeah, I thought that was a really important point as well. We have reached out to MPD and to the Steve Stricker Foundation, the event organizers. They are going to be meeting with the street use team tomorrow. One of the only reason that the Sherman Avenue is being closed and the entrance to the park is being closed to vehicles is due to safety concerns. We don't want to have public vehicles going that close to crowds of people. However, both MPD and Parks and the event organizers are committed to discussing this tomorrow, where all the stakeholders are involved as part of the street use team to see if this is a possibility. Because Nick is right, and I think you raised that concern. If we can, I imagine it's likely only a small number of people that would need access to the park or that would want access to the park that would have ADA stickers and be able to use that kind of parking. So we're definitely open to that. We just need to get clearance from MPD and the street use team to make sure we can make that happen.
Well, so you're asking us to kind of vote on this in good faith, that you'll be able to work this out in a satisfactory manner. Is that correct?
I am, and I think that I do want to be clear that we are going to have to, I would ask you all to defer to the street use team, who will try to problem solve this, but may or may not be able to come up with anything. They haven't had that full discussion yet.
Okay. And then Nick made some other good points. I just saw this recently. I don't know about my colleagues, but this just came across my desk in the last hour or so.
Yeah.
So he had a couple other concerns expressed. One, questioning why it was necessary to close off access all week long while the event is only going on for a couple days or 3 days. I don't know how long it is. Is it indeed?
The event is the full week. The first 5 days or so of the event are not open to the public. It's a large enough event, but they don't sell as many tickets to it. It's more focused on fundraising. But the Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the large open to the public event that brings the thousands of people. But there will be an event there those first days of the week.
And so this is for 1 full week that the park will be closed, or is it longer than that? I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify that the park will not be closed. The park
The
is
parking lot will be closed. Correct.
yes, so it would be Monday to Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. And then another question that Nick raised, and I beg my colleagues' indulgence, but I thought he raised some good questions. Is there a reason why we should have a 2-year agreement as opposed to expecting the applicant to come back on a year-to-year basis so that we can evaluate and tweak and make adjustments based on our experience? It seems to me that there's some value in doing so. And last year it was somewhat controversial. There was a lot of feedback, and I'd hate to cut out the possibility of additional feedback now after the second year of doing this. Is it really such a time saver for you to do a 2-year contract rather than having it come back year to year?
So we proposed in this agreement that the term would be for 2 years because we do know that the championship will be held at TPC Golf this year and next year. So we're looking for a way to smooth it out administratively. But I do want to be clear that in order to renew this for the second term, the foundation and the contract do have to go back to the Board of Park Commissioners. We wanted to make sure that there is a way for public feedback and public comment to happen at the board level. So the Board of Park Commissioners does need to approve this in order for it to be renewed. The other thing I will say is that the foundation and the Board of Park Commissioners are very committed to transparency on this. And so last year we did have a session in the fall where we had a debrief. The foundation presented, staff presented on the pros and cons of the event, and it was available to the public as well. This year, the board has asked, and we have committed again to do a debrief in the fall, so that even before we consider the renewal for the next year, we'll have a debrief of the event. So that is the checks and balances that we put in this process.
Oh, thank you. That's reassuring. And lastly, and I have no way of verifying this, of course, Nick suggests that we're not really charging a full market rate, that we're giving a like some concession that this is a charitable organization, and then he calls into question how much of a charitable organization this in fact is, and that we are effectively subsidizing, or rather a major operation, a money-making operation, by giving, if in fact, and again, I can't verify it, he alleges that we are giving a less than market rate. Could you speak to that concern?
Sure. I just want to be clear. We don't typically rent out our parking lots at our conservation parks and have no intent of making a policy to do so on any sort of regular basis. This is purely because the vehicles are going to be restricted from entering the park anyway, that we wanted to find a way to have something go back to the park. What we did is we looked at what we charge our event users who close our boat launches. That's sort of the most commensurate situation that we could come up with, where kind of access to our park is being blocked. This is in alignment with that. The other thing I would say is, like, nothing that Parks does is at market rate, or very few things that we do are at market rate. We're trying to make our parks accessible. So we didn't look to like how much could we possibly make from this. That wasn't the question at hand. We looked at what do we charge other users for similar things.
I understand, but on the other hand, there are things that alders want to see in their parks. I, for one, would like to see porta potties at all our dog parks, and if more revenue is coming in, we might be able to afford that. But that's another matter. Yeah. So thank you.
Understood.
Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alder. Additional questions on item 4? Seeing none. Item 4 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 4. That will take us to item 10, which is Legistar 92212, approving the initial concept design and authorizing the city to execute an agreement for design, fabrication, delivery, and installation between the city of Madison and Nate Page to create a site-specific public art feature for the Imagination Center at Rindle Park at 1818 Portage Road in District 17. On item 10, a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 10. Alder Madison, did you have questions for staff?
Yep, thanks, Mayor. So for Karen, if you could just give us a quick, this is like 4 o'clock, the coffee has worn off, but a quick overview of what's happened recently, where we're at now, and then what happens next. And for the what happened next, I'm more so looking for, because I could have sworn I may have missed it or heard it incorrectly, but I think the artist may edit sort of what the design might look like. So yeah, just a previous, now, coming up.
Great. Can you hear me with these headphones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the resolution outlines sort of when this started and how long we've been working on this Imagination Center public art piece. At one point in the process, we had a delay because we actually relocated the piece when we saw the site and realized that users wouldn't really have access to the previous site we were working in. That shortened our timeline. Well, we gave an extra couple weeks to the artists because they had to kind of tweak their designs, and that shortened our outreach timeline. But even so, we got 1,200 community responses to a survey online, largely, I think, because it was in the papers, and that's extraordinary for us. That's about double what we usually get. And the Alder had explicitly requested that we do outreach to the students at Sandberg Elementary because that's their pedestrian route to school. That's the library they're going to grow up with. And she really just wanted their voice as part of this conversation and as a learning opportunity for them. So we used her connections basically to leverage access to the schools and the art teachers. And we had Carly Latimer and Rob Dees from the Bubbler spend an entire day with the students and really talk to them about the proposals and hopefully, I wasn't there, but the process of public art, and really got incredible comments from them. There were some concerning comments both from the children and from the community about the winning design. So overwhelmingly, everybody was kind of in agreement with working with Nate Page, but he had initially in his design had sort of a roadway image, and there was a divided line, and that was disturbing to many people. As you know, we just had a young person killed on a road. They didn't want this conflation of a person achieving and moving in a road. Even people in the neighborhood, they feel kind of cut off by the roads. So the road was not a welcome symbol. So we asked if he could tweak the design and reconsider it. And we have a MAC meeting this week where we will, so staff, the Bubbler, all kinds of staff worked with him, and he created 2 options. And we're going to bring that to MAC this week, and then we'll attach it to the resolution going before council. So that's where we are, and that's what happens next. Does that answer your question, Alder Madison? Okay.
Yep. And just to make sure, I just want to make sure no one else has questions, so I could just go right to what I would say in discussion.
Are there any other questions on item 10? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion, Alder Madison?
Thank you. So first, I just want to say, thanks to Karen, to Rob, and Carly. It's Carly, right? Because I think Carly and I spent maybe the first 2 hours or first hour or so together at Sandberg, and then Rob and Carly spent the bulk of the day. But I want to make sure that alders at minimum go out to Legistar and read the kids' comments under, I think it was added under 89989 in Legistar for today, because all of their survey comments there, I think we had over 100 kids total who ended up adding their little dot. But I think what we were able to do, my hope is that more of us will consider these kinds of ways to include kids in projects where kids are going to be like high users of whatever is happening in our districts, for example. So I do just really want to say again, thank you. for obliging me to do the extra work because I was very frustrated, but you all, were great partners in trying to resolve getting the kids' feedback. And for the alders and, for everybody else listening, in those comments, though, you'll see the kids really engage just like little adults to a degree, as if they were in an entire art gallery talking about the art and choosing, their favorites. And the way that they had discussions was just really interesting and like vibrant, Kids worrying about this big feather flying off, for example, was hilarious to me. But yeah, please go out and read the kids' comments because I'm going to quiz you at our next meeting to see if y'all read them. But yeah, thanks again, Karen.
Thank you, Alder. Any further discussion on item 10? Seeing none, item 10 has been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we shall record that vote. Move on to item 11, which is Legistar 92294, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Baker's Place LLC for 20 to 50 parking permits at the South Livingston Street Garage in District 6. On item 11, a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. On item 11, questions for staff?
Yes, I am the courtesy sponsor on this, but hoping that we can just have a short overview of what this is and why it's coming before council coming before finance at this time.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ann Slazak. I am standing in for Stephanie Cox as she is on vacation. So the overview of what is happening is Baker's Place, as we know, is an apartment development located very close to our Livingston garage. When they went into their development process, they executed a long-term lease with us to have some parking stalls reserved for them. As they've gotten into their operations, the lease has been determined to never fully have fit their needs. So they've in partnership with the ownership, there's been a mutual rescission of the original, will be a mutual rescission of the original lease. And this is now it's technically a long-term lease. However, it is for permits, 24/7 permits, which they do feel will meet the needs. Permits are different from a standard long-term lease in that they're allowed 22, no less than 20, but no more than 50 24/7 permits, which means the residents may have wait time if there's events at other places such as Bree Stevens or the Sylvie, because they're not guaranteed reserved stalls, but they're able to have access 24/7 to the parking facility. So that is what we're working with the owners of Baker's Place right now, and that is the agreement before you. We didn't attach the formal agreement because it's in final negotiations. We do have what will likely be the final outcome. So I'm happy to answer questions on that, but that's why the finalized agreement is not there. So happy to answer anything you have beyond that.
So I guess why are we doing this type of agreement versus just saying, well, they, like anybody else, could buy a monthly pass, like anyone has the opportunity to buy for any of our parking garages?
So it's in relation to what they need to offer for their tenants to be able to make sure that their units are marketable. I also have Trent here, our TDM manager. So Trent, I don't know if you would like to speak to this as well.
Yeah, I would say to respond to Alder Vitter's question, it was really based on when the project got approved initially. It was before the TDM ordinance took effect, so it was around 2021. And as part of that, they did sign an agreement to have some stalls for tenants within the Livingston Street Garage. But as the building's been occupied, they came to parking and wanted to try to explore other options for parking passes that would better suit their tenants' needs and the overall needs of the development.
And so then who is responsible for the parking passes? Is it that they are selling them to their residents and then they pay us a fee versus they send people to buy them from us? Like what is the construct for the actual provision of the passes to the people?
So they will be issuing the permits and then we will be billing them monthly.
And is it do they have any markup, I guess is my question.
From the original
contract? Like whatever our cost is as a city for providing a parking space, is that what they are then charging their residents, or do they have a markup that they're charging their residents more than what it costs us to provide the parking space?
Trent, do you?
So, Anne, I
speak to, yeah, I appreciate where it is. It's just,
do you, I think what I heard you say, but I want to clarify, is that we are providing the permit. They are providing the permit to their tenant. Their tenant might use it, and we would charge them for that use. But we're not charging them a flat fee to have the permit?
We are charging them a flat fee. However, their tenant may or may not use it, and they're not guaranteed a spot. So say there's a concert at the Sylvie and the garage is full and their tenant shows up with the permit, there's not a reserved spot. They may have to wait to get in. So in terms of like revenue to the parking division, it's surplus to what the community's needs are. So it's still a first come, first serve situation for the garage.
Right, which is different from other contracts we have had where we actually guarantee them a spot.
Correct.
And we would not let somebody else use that spot, even if there was demand. We would hold it vacant if the tenant wasn't using it.
Correct.
But they are paying a flat cost to have that 24-hour access. It's not a per use fee.
Correct. Yes, it's roughly about $140 a pass. $140 to $155 a pass is what they are currently in the negotiations of, and are pretty sure they'll land around there. And that's per month.
And then we don't necessarily have control of the entity marking it up, or there is a agreement that whatever price they pay us is the price that they charge their resident.
I can't exactly speak to that nuance. I'm happy to ask Attorney Finch for that detail and get back to you. Because again, it's in negotiations and I'm standing in for Stephanie. So I don't quite have that level for you, but I can get it for you, and that's not a problem. I know that we have control over they can't sublease it out. So if they don't have a tenant, they can't be like, oh, by the way, like Festival Foods, wouldn't this be cool for your employees or something like that? But yes, I'm happy to get that information. Sorry.
Yep. Other questions on this item? My only question, Anne, is maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, that the cost to somebody in the general public of buying a monthly permit like this?
You are correct that I don't have it off the top of my head, but
that's okay.
Yes, I'll look into it for sure. Not a problem.
Thank you, Anne and Trent. Seeing no other questions, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion on item 11, is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 11. And that will bring us to item 12, which is Legistar 92293, an internal audit update and employee assistance program audit presentation. And we'll turn it over to finance staff for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Cola should be in the meeting. If not, hopefully he is joining soon.
Yeah, I'm here, David.
Okay, Cola. I'll turn it over to you to share your slides and take us through the audit plan for 2026, as well as the audit report for the employee assistant.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This evening, the internal audit presentation will cover 4 key areas. First, we will present the result of the 2025 citywide risk assessment, the identified emerging risk, our proposed 2026 internal audit plan, and as mentioned, highlights from the recently completed employee assistance program audit. The proposed 2026 audit plan is risk-based and developed in alignment with COSO International Control Framework and the Institute of Internal Auditors standard. Our objective is to ensure that all audit coverage in 2026 is strategically focused on areas of highest organizational risk and regulatory exposure, while strengthening governance, accountability, and public trust. Sorry, I don't, 1 second, please. Okay. The 2025 citywide risk assessment was conducted between November 2025 and January 2026. The goal was to identify, prioritize, and evaluate operational, financial, compliance, and strategic risks across the city agencies. The assessment process includes structured interviews with agencies' leadership, review of prior audit results, and where we don't have a prior audit, we also conducted an evaluation of the control environment, and management were asked to self-assess their risk. We received responses from 25 agencies across the enterprise, ensuring a broad organizational representation. In total, we have 590 risks identified and assessed. Each risk was evaluated using the standardized criteria, which includes the likelihood of occurrence, operational and financial impact, legal implication, reputational issues, and so on. It's important to know that many of these risks already have mitigating controls in place. The risk assessment engagement does not suggest an absence of a control, but rather it highlights areas requiring continuous monitoring and oversight. The agencies included in the proposed 2026 internal audit plan were determined directly from the result of the risk assessment. Our plan is data-driven, is risk-based, and aligned with the entire enterprise risk exposure. Slide 3. This slide shows the graphical representation of the 2025 risk assessment results. As seen in the graph, the majority of identified risks fall within the low to moderate range, with relatively fewer risks categorized as high exposures. The city's placement of high-risk areas within a controlled and limited profile reflect a strong commitment to governance, risk management, and internal control. Our outcome is not accidental. It's as a result of our continuous established financial policies and oversight structure by the finance department. The segregation of duties controls that was put in place across the enterprise, departmental accountability mechanisms, control activities, information and communication, and ensuring that we continuously monitor the potential risk that we have across the enterprise. I want to say that while the overall risk profile is stable and well managed, it's also important for us to emphasize that low risk areas does not mean there is no risk. If it is not properly monitored and controlled, it could degenerate to become a high risk in the nearest future. And that for us as auditors, we will continue to validate the control that are both properly designed and operating effectively, and also to identify areas where enhancements may further strengthen the city's internal controls environment. This slide shows what we call emerging risk. Having assessed and prioritized the city's current risk landscape, it is also equally important that we discuss emerging risk. Emerging risks are risks that may not yet be fully realized, but have the potential to significantly impact cities' operation. Emerging risks are evolving threats that are characterized by uncertainties, rapid change, and limited historical precedence. Because these risks lack extensive historical data, as for us as auditors and as the city, proactive oversight becomes very essential. For internal audits, reviewing emerging risks allow us to shift from a purely reactive model where we respond only to past findings to an anticipatory oversight model where we assess what could go wrong in an agency and provide early warning before issues materialize. This approach helps us to strengthen the governance process, and enhance resilience. Listed here are the type of emerging risk, examples of the emerging risks based on the just concluded city's risk assessment. We have the information IT, the risks that are emerging under under IT, operational, financial, legal, and compliance. This list is inexhausted. We just identify major areas where we, as internal auditors on the city management, will continue to focus as we continue with our operation in 2026. How is the internal audit will support emerging risk? We don't just want to say these are the emerging risks. We also want to show what we have put in place to ensure that we're supporting the city's enterprise as it relates to emerging risk. As part of our independent assurance responsibilities, we will ensure that we embed risk sensing and data analytics into our audit planning cycle to ensure timely identification of involving risks. We will continue to strengthen collaboration with departments to better understand operational risk drivers and emerging concerns. We will continue to evaluate the design and operating effectiveness of the internal controls across the city agencies. We will also benchmark city practices against all public sector standards and leading practices using international standard organization portfolios. We will recommend practical and sustainable and cost-conscious improvements as we find areas where there are need for improvement. We will develop capacity in data analytics and technology assurance. To hold the internal audit accountable this year, this is part of what we will also do. These are key performance indicators, which will include the percentage of audits that is performed in alignment to the top emerging risk. Average audit cycle time, that is the number of days it takes us to complete an audit, the percentage of high-risk recommendations that have been implemented, risk mitigations progress across divisions audited, staff training on hours on emerging risk area. We want to also invest in the training this year and make sure that staffs around across the city are aware of the emerging risk in their agencies. Moving from that, we'll go to the proposed plan for 2026. I want to say that the 2026 internal audit plan is structured around the three core priorities we have identified from the risk assessment. That is the high risk operational areas, financial oversight and compliance exposures, areas with limited recent audit coverage. Selections were not arbitrary, but reflect the risk scoring result from the 2025 citywide risk assessment. The plan also is to retain flexibility to address special requests from leadership and to respond to emerging risks as they arise throughout the year. So these are the areas where we will be focusing this year. We'll focus on the parking division. We started the parking division audit late 2025, but due to some delays, we have not completed. We were about, as at today, we were about 85% completion. And we hope that by the time we will be presenting to this committee again, we would have completed the parking result audit and the results will be presented. This year, we will also be auditing the economic development division. The review will assess whether the division programs and initiatives align with the city's strategic plan, council directive, and approved economic development priorities. We will also evaluate performance monitoring and accountability mechanisms. We will review the assessor's office. The assessor's office is scheduled for the third quarter. The audit will assess compliance with applicable state statutes, municipal ordinances, and regulatory standards. We will also evaluate the efficiency and the existence of internal control over assessment, process, and documentation. Lastly, on performance audits is the transportation division. The engagement will evaluate whether the division services aligns with municipal strategic goals, service standard, and community expectation. We will assess operational effectiveness, performance measurement, and governance oversight. I want to say to this committee that we have met, the internal audit have met with the leadership of all these departments and agencies before this presentation. We have agreed on these timelines. We have agreed on the need for the audit based on the result from the risk assessment, and they are all ready to be audited in 2026. As part of our governance risk process, we will also review some of our processes. This year, we will review the contract management process, which cuts across all the activities of the city. As part of internal control and a continuous monitoring process for cash collecting locations, the internal audit will review the efficiency of cash received controls across the city's enterprise. We will also review we will also conduct what we refer to as internal control spot check. This is to help to determine whether key internal controls as established by management are properly designed to mitigate against financial, operational, and compliance risk. In addition, as part of our process, this year, we are going to continue to assess our risk as we, towards the end of the year, the fourth quarter, perform annual enterprise risk assessments, just like we did in 2025. The scope of our audit for 2026 will cover financial reviews, operational review, compliance review, and IT system review. The audit will cover activities performed between January to December 2025. Finally, here is a highlight of the Employees Assistance Program. The scope of the audit covers operational and administrative activities of EAP from January through to December 31st, 2025. Our audit findings include one of the things that we discover includes inclusion of vendors, performance management, and service level controls in the CSIM contract. We also identified the need to strengthen segregation of duties in the approval process for PCAD expenses. We've made necessary recommendations that will help to mitigate against the risks that are being identified around these findings. These have been communicated to the management. The report is attached in the legislature for further review, and at the appropriate time and the agreed time for completion of recommendations, the internal audit will circle back to ensure that audit recommendations have been implemented as made during the audit. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Kola. Any questions on the presentation? Alder Figueroa Cole?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for, I noticed part of the discussions we had from the last round were incorporated here, what I'm assuming that were incorporated here. So the agencies that are going to be audited were already informed, and this information, this process is already part of their planning for 2026 working year.
Yes.
Is that accurate? So they had the time to put that, to allocate resources and be ready to be fully participants on the audit?
We've done that.
Okay. And then there was at some point was mentioned the scope of the audit is for January to December 2025, but also was mentioned that the parking was already started at the end of the year. So is the scope differently?
The scope for for parking will be 2024. Since we already started the audit, we did the audit for 2025. The audit was approved in 2025, but we could not complete it, and that's why it was extended into 2026.
Okay, and then for the agency, the transportation division, what is in part of that? Is Metro included on this audit for transportation division, or is that separate?
Metro is not included.
So what's the transportation division specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do think a little clarity there is useful, because transportation is actually a department, not a division, and it has 3 divisions in it. So is it just the office of the director, or does it include traffic engineering, parking, and/or Metro?
It's only the office of the director.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. And then I'm going to ask this question again, and I will continue to ask this question until I get a firm answer. I appreciate, that this is a lot of work and it will take time, but there's 3 agencies that are extremely relevant. And I really trying to understand when are we going to tackle them, which is the police department, fire department, and the civil rights office. Do we have like a larger plan already set up somewhere or are we just going to continue to do this every year, select a few of them and move on with the selections you guys made?
We will continue to do the risk assessment. The internal audit, Institute of Internal Audit prescription for us is to ensure that our audits are risk-based. So based on the outcome of the risk assessment, we will pick the agencies that are high risk for the result of the risk assessment. We will include fire and other agencies that you have identified as we continue to perform the audit.
So you're not going to be able to give me an estimate on when police and fire and civil rights will be audited?
We will include them in 2027 audit. We will include them in the next audit, next year's audit.
So next year audit will be, you will include an assessment to see if we're going to do audit, or are they going to be audited?
Yes, we will include them in the assessment to see if they will be part of the audit.
Yeah, so those are my questions. I will pick this conversation up on this later on with you and Dave on how that assessment is completed. Because again, I think those three agencies are super relevant for many other issues, not just financials. So I would like to see those done as soon as, sooner than later. But thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Vitiver, questions?
Yeah, so I see for EAP, there were 2 high-risk findings. And so my questions are, 1, what processes have changed as a result of these findings? And 2, I'm particularly on the P cards. That's remarkable to me that that process was being done the way that it was, because that's obviously not in keeping with standard good accounting practices. And so just wondering if that finding has been communicated to other divisions and departments to make sure that they are also following best practices.
Director Gonzalez is here to answer at least the first part of the question.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I did want to clarify that there was no transactions that was found that was processed incorrectly. Because our office is very tiny, we're all 4 people, we do have a check and balances in place where our program assistant processes all of the transactions through Munis, and I do the final approval. And so what COLA did find was that there were transactions that I purchased with my P card and I had the final approval for through Munis. However, there is a check and balances where all of the processes are never approved and processed by the same person. And with us being such a tiny office, other than cutting the amount of P cards, which we'll do moving forward, there is no getting away from one of us, because both of us are the ones who are doing all the administrative pieces of the office, being involved in that process while also processing some of those cards. But we do have, or some of those charges, but we do have a check and balances for our P card transactions. So I don't know if that helped answer your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Any other questions on item 12? Seeing none. Then thank you very much, Kola, for the comprehensive presentation. And we'll look forward to the next report. Item 12 is the last item on our agenda this evening. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of adjournment? Seeing no objection, we stand adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.